No, I don't like any politician. I've never backed any of them. I think they're all organized crime. I've been pretty explicit about that, but apparently in some circles, you can't have the opinion that both are bad anymore, I know people have been saying a lot of things. I think it's rather odd that there's very little known about the shooter. He basically exists in a 2022 BlackRock commercial, and there's very little on him. People are more focused on that than perhaps his VP pick or any of the other things that he's come out and said since that, such as his willingness to consider putting Jamie Dimon in charge of the Treasury Department.
Today, we're breaking into a gripping expose with investigative journalist Whitney Webb. She unveils a chilling reality, the dawn of a new international monetary system that could spell disaster. According to Whitney, BlackRock has a major hand in this impending financial overhaul that will dismantle the existing Bretton Woods system, using the political system as one of its chess pieces. The ultimate aim is total surveillance and censorship over every facet of our lives. Whitney's revelations stem from the global power players, including Larry Fink and World Economic Forum founder Klaus Schwab. Schwab has boldly proclaimed the need for a great reset of capitalism, stating that every industry, from oil and gas to technology, must undergo transformation. In her latest interview with TFTC, Whitney warns of a coordinated push by world governments towards this new world order. With elites like BlackRock and Larry Fink driving this agenda, they plan to tokenize all existing assets and natural resources. Everything from forests to rivers, mountains to lakes, being commoditized for the benefit of the super rich, a complete control and domination over the masses. Whitney warns of the political shift happening as we speak, and cautions that things are not as they seem. She says we're about to see a catastrophic event in order to implement the new financial system. Don't forget to click the link in the description to watch the full interview. Let's get right into it.
A lot of these people and interests are in public sector when convenient, then they move to the private sector when convenient. And I think, what the setup here is and what it has been, we've been talking about it probably for most of this year, especially with a lot of the Larry Fink stuff in Bitcoin that happened earlier this year, is the idea of sort of trying to move now that, the public sector is unpopular, move it back to the private sector and frame, that's, I'm sure a big reason why Eric Prince is, being considered for the Pentagon, because he's been on during Trump's first administration was pushing to essentially privatize the entire national security state, both the intelligence and military communities. So is it, better, will all our problems go away if the official CIA is dissolved, but we have a private CIA led by former CIA assets like Eric Prince and stuff? I don't necessarily think that's true. And is it really, again, it's not free market, private sector. The US has essentially been a crony capitalist, economy for a very long time. And and people have argued too that a lot of famous American capitalists have direct relationships with, the Chinese government and rave about China. Everyone from, the Rockefeller family to Larry Fink. And if you honestly look at how China has developed as an economy, it's focused on creating using government control to have a centralized control economy. And that's why you have people like Larry Fink saying markets love totalitarian governments, because it reduces risk for them, right? And makes it easier to trade when you know what's going to happen. And that's part of the utility of something like Palantir as well, that's supposed to predict everything before it happens. There's a lot of, they view that as sort of like a market intelligence thing, I would assume anyway. As far as JD Vance is concerned, he's an Ohio guy, been involved in at least one fundraiser at Leslie Wexner's house, who again is the richest man in Ohio. And I mean, that's the reality of people that come to power in Ohio. Just like in Chicago, if you want to be, crowned political royalty in Chicago, you have to make good with the Pritzkers and the Crowns and families like that. I mean, in the state of Ohio, it's kind of similar, if not with Wexner himself, with his kind of broader network. He's dominated politics in that state for a very, very long time. And but really the name that's most important as it relates to Vance is going to be Peter Thiel. As people have noted, Vance worked at Mithril Capital, where Mithril, by the way, a big investor in the stablecoin issuer Paxos, which plays a pretty big role in the piece we'll be discussing later. And from Mithril, he went on to be involved with some of these other VC funds, one tied to an AOL co-founder, one of them receiving a lot of money, this Rise of the Rest fund. It was heavily funded by people like Jeff Bezos and the Walton family from Walmart, who, if you're familiar with the Waltons, are very tied up historically with the Clintons, specifically Hillary. And then, from there, he's his political career, a lot of Thiel involvement, once again, a lot of donations from Thiel and other members of the so-called PayPal mafia, like David Sachs and Elon Musk, of course, being a big, part of the fundraising apparatus, as are some other companies that Thiel helped create, like Palantir, which is now part of this super PAC with the Winklevoss twins and Elon Musk. And then you also have Joe Lonsdale, who's a Palantir co-founder with Peter Thiel, joining that. So why is this bad? I could probably go on a rant for a very long time about Peter Thiel, so I'm just going to try and condense it. I've been reporting on him and specifically on Palantir for a very long time. I would encourage people to look at those reports because it's very clear that Palantir was expressly created by Peter Thiel and Alex Karp to be the privatization of this program at DARPA that was called Total Information Awareness. And Total Information Awareness was basically to create a giant data mining operation that would be combined with artificial intelligence for the purpose of basically creating a pre-crime society. And since then, it's been privatized as Palantir. Palantir's done all of those things. During COVID, they were trying to predict with pretty much every intelligence agency. Their only client until 2008 was the CIA. Palantir engineers in the early years of the company made over 200 visits to CIA headquarters in Langley, Virginia. Alex Karp has said on record the CIA was always the intended client of Palantir. And the TIA program, though it was housed at DARPA, was created in conjunction with the close involvement of the CIA, particularly the CIA's then Chief Information Officer, Alan Wade, who was also a business partner of Christine Maxwell, Ghislaine Maxwell's sister, in a company called Kiliad that was very similar. The software program it produced was similar in many ways to Palantir as well. So, Palantir, for all intents and purposes, is the panopticon software that TIA was meant to be. And it's important to keep in mind where TIA originally came from. The person that ran TIA was a man named John Poindexter, who was one of the top figure in the Reagan administration to be charged as part of the Iran-Contra scandal. And in direct relation with the Iran-Contra scandal, Poindexter and also Oliver North and other figures involved in Iran-Contra created a database using the Promise software, which again involved Robert Maxwell and Christine Maxwell specifically, and really the CIA and Israeli intelligence. So the Promise software was basically a sort of a proto-Palantir, you could say, a way to sort of like data mine and generate intelligence from these masses of data. And Main Core was basically described as a list of Americans that could be rounded up in a vaguely defined national crisis, which could be something like nonviolent protests against U.S. military intervention abroad.
Whitney warns of a coordinated push by world governments towards this new world order, and driving this agenda are elites like BlackRock's Larry Fink and many others. Whitney believes this impending financial overhaul will dismantle the existing system, replacing it entirely with a blockchain-based framework. The ultimate aim is total surveillance and censorship over every facet of our lives. Whitney's recent revelations stem from the machinations of global power players, including French President Emmanuel Macron and World Economic Forum founder Klaus Schwab. With Schwab's boldly proclaimed need for a great reset of capitalism, stating that every industry, from oil and gas to technology, must undergo transformation.
Isn't it interesting that one of Peter Thiel's other proteges, beside J.D. Vance, is Sam Altman, who's behind WorldCoin, which is, the biometric face scanning, gives you a unique digital ID. Hopefully, I don't know. We'll see the limits of Peter Thiel's influence on Trump's second term, because obviously he's going to win. If we allow ourselves to be onboarded to these digital ID systems and this, these financial surveillance systems, these programmable, surveillable currencies that they've been developing, then it's going to be much easier for them once everyone's dependent on those new systems. And I think that's part of the plan, because the same people that are the architects of the digital ID stuff at the UN, people like Mark Carney and Mike Bloomberg, I mean, they're all in for this carbon credit stuff. They're arguably architects of that entire system and the whole stakeholder capitalist model and ESG stuff. They love all that stuff. And I don't think they have any intention of abandoning that market just because people don't like it. I think they're waiting for the right time, that once they have people onboarded to these systems enough and there's this insane surveillance state.
I think you are seeing narrative carving. You are seeing it in the Bitcoin space. And you're seeing huge people come in, like a Larry Fink, pushing Bitcoin as digital gold or in this way that's not really this peer-to-peer currency. And I'm not trying to go total Roger Ver hijacking Bitcoin thing or Bcash. I think Bcash is a bad idea because of the centralizing effects of big blocks. But this idea that, hey, well, our bags are going to go up. So we should just sit back and be passive because we're rich now. I think we are here to have a state change of money and take the power back from the debt pardoning levers of the state via the central bank and via this Ponzi scheme that is the treasury market. We're here to defang that. Let's not let Bitcoin become a ledger where we store dollars and store treasuries and tokenize debt, because that's what they want to do. And they're not just going to tokenize debt or dollars; they're going to tokenize pretty much everything. Fink didn't just stop being an ESG guy.
Not at all.
Because it's politically convenient. He's been building these structures with, hugely important groups, World Bank, UN. Whitney's written a ton about, sort of the green finance system. And these guys haven't just forgot about that. It's just convenient for them right now to push Bitcoin as digital gold, price out a bunch of people from, we might even already kind of be there. How many, America is probably the highest purchasing economy in the world, the best positioned. Most people in the United States can't afford to hold Bitcoin, and that's just going to continue to get worse and worse as Bitcoin does, inevitably, I would say, cross 6 figures and maybe even 7 figures here in the incoming decade.
After the approval of the Bitcoin ETF earlier this year, we're seeing a strategic securing of lucrative government contracts, which Webb predicted the push towards a digital ID system tied to financial surveillance, aimed to control and monitor transactions. With the goal now to eliminate financial privacy, a system of programmable money is being created that can only be used and directed by authorities. Whitney points out the underlying plan to use Bitcoin and cryptocurrency as a means to control the supply. Cryptocurrency will be used as a way to destroy the value and privacy that's eluded governments until now. She says we're witnessing the collapse of the fiat money system, and why this is unlike anything we've seen in history. While the dollar may be the last one to fall, there's something much bigger going on behind the scenes. What do you think about Whitney Webb's recent prediction for 2024 and the catastrophic events she says are coming in the last half of the year? Comment down below. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. This is Library of Wealth. We'll see you in the next video.